All right. So we are that was a fun little thing I did last night. Sadly Doc is not here yet. There was a fun little NBA on TNT action. For those that remember when that was how the theme went. Um, there he is. God damn it. God damn it, man. You missed my cool intro I made for you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well,
I'll play it again just for shits and giggles.
okay.
Yeah. Remember
That's
that?
pretty good. That's exciting.
I mean, dude, that used to get me fucking hyped for games back.
I'm hyped already. I got the game on behind right behind my computer. I can see the Raptors and Sixers playing. So
you got to make me do it. I wasn't going to, but I was like, I really need to see how this game goes because the Raptors on the bubble. No, they're the second seed in the East.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah, it's been crazy. Actually, it was kind of funny because like last night I was watching that Trailblazers game, and everyone's just been like sucking the dick of Damian Lillard, and I'm like, but yeah, dude scored 60 points, and his team won by like 3.
Well, they got kind of lucky because Dallas hit a 3 that would have taken the lead, and there was a foul like right at the end. Honestly, actually, Dallas looked great in that game. It was one of those games where no one could stop anybody.
No.
So it was like basically whoever. Yeah, I mean, he was honestly though. That was like the easiest 60 points I've ever seen anyone score. It just seemed like it flowed. Like it wasn't like it just didn't look that crazy. He was just hitting shots and shooting a lot of free throws.
Well, like what was kind of crazy about that too was like that 1-3 that like went super high in the air and then fell down. And you're like, that's just the kind of game he's having right now.
Yeah. That one. That's one of the weirdest bounces I've ever seen.
I have never seen. Usually that like hits the back of the backboard and is out of bounds. Like that was, I don't know. I've been loving this this restart as they've been calling it. I mean, really the big surprise for me has been, and I think everybody has been Phoenix, like just coming out and going undefeated.
Yeah, it's funny. I haven't seen him play once. Just because, and that's not on purpose. It's just usually I only get to watch maybe a game or a half a game, kind of here or there. So it's just some reason I've missed him. So we'll see if are they in that playoff situation where they can.
I think they are because they ran the table. I think they're basically able to do the play-in. I think.
Yeah, but you have to win one. But it's 8 games.
Yeah, I think.
So they're 7-0. Did they win their 8th game?
Not yet. I think that's tomorrow. Maybe that's tonight. I think it's tomorrow. Because they played. Yeah. But no, like, that's like, I made a comment on someone's Facebook status about Devin Booker. I was like, yeah, it's like he's playing on a contract year. And someone's like, or, it's just because he like loves his team and the city he plays for and all this kind of shit. I was like, whoa, bro. Like, I'm not like mad at him. I'm just saying like, it's like he's playing on a contract year, knowing he's going after that Brinks truck after this season.
I just think he's good and their team is actually good. Like if you look at their team, they just have good players.
I mean, like the crazy thing is, like, I feel like DeAndre Ayton is actually kind of coming into his own finally. Like, I mean, he was kind of touted as being like one of those, like the next, level of big men that we haven't seen in a while. And I feel like it hadn't lived up to that really up until like halfway through this season.
Yeah. I mean, he's got all the tools.
It's kind of weird. Like, it's so weird. Like, you and I are literally watching the same game right now. Like, surprisingly, Philly's up with Ben Simmons gone for the rest of the season, which I don't know how that's going to pan out now. But
the seeding is wrapped up in the East, so this is kind of a meaningless game for these teams. It's just a matter of.
That's why I don't recognize anybody. Yeah, it's man, I don't know. I'm like so excited to see some playoff basketball. Like, I feel like, I was like telling someone the other day, I was like, I feel like my life's somewhat back to normal now because like I can come home, I can look forward to a couple basketball games. I can look forward to coming home and catching like some baseball. And supposedly from some of the ads I've been seeing, is that NFL's coming back, and I haven't seen anything about how they're handling anything. So I'm kind of surprised that they're pushing it.
I mean, it's too big of a business to not have it go. I've heard some kind of rumors that their setup has not been that great. So I can't really speak to it, but for the people that are fans, I mean, I hope it all works out. I mean, obviously, I think it's much harder to start a season from scratch. And unlike basketball, which only has 12 to 15 people on a team at any given time, you're dealing with
12, 15 people on each side.
yeah, like 50 some odd people plus even massive coaching staffs and things like that. So it's just so many more people, and what they're doing with
oh, here's that shot. 21 feet in the air. Incredible.
Yeah, but I've just heard that it's if you're doing it like baseball where there's no bubble and you're just traveling kind of like normal, you're just making yourself a lot more susceptible. So it's tough.
I mean, today I think you tweeted about it, maybe not. We're seeing that outdoor festival with the weird steel platform stages, 6 feet apart, and it looks pretty massive as far as the sheer number of people they're putting out. But pleasantly surprised to see something of that level already. I mean, granted, I know overseas they're handling things a lot differently than we are here in the States, but it's still kind of interesting to see them get back to something to that scale so quickly.
Well, they're just better at handling these things, or the European countries have a little bit more of a collectivist mentality, so and we're a lot of people in America are just inherently rebellious. So it's like you just say, hey, we should do this. They're like, no, I'm gonna do my thing. So it's and there's no top down strategy, unfortunately, for this. So something that could have been, we would be way further along had we been collectively more responsible and on top of things. So we're definitely shooting ourselves in the foot, as a country. And so unfortunately, things that are going to happen quicker in Europe are going to happen later for us because, we're just very immature, I think, about things like this.
I kind of have been wondering, and I know you're a little bit more scholarly on the politics of kind of abroad. Do you feel like this is a really good representation of why our political system, the way it's set up to basically a top-down system between here's the president, here's your state elected officials, your city elected officials, and so forth. Do you feel like that also is a problem?
Listen, I just think we're really set up very uniquely compared to most countries are, unless it's a China or a Russia, are just way smaller. And so they're not having to contend with really this many different attitudes and different lifestyles and cultural differences. I mean, there's a massive cultural difference between Texas and New Hampshire, between Southern California and Alabama, and so we call it the United States, but there was a book, I forget what it's called, basically just the theory that really we're like 7 different countries. If you look at regionality, local cultures, just different attitudes about things, and that's kind of a tough thing to put under one umbrella. And so so a big part of how things work is states' rights. And so a lot of states can kind of implement their own laws that kind of suit the people there. And to a certain degree, I think that's kind of great, right? Where, hey, maybe the laws or the culture in Massachusetts don't really do it for me. So I'm going to move to Louisiana where it's kind of more my speed. And I think that's fine. But unfortunately, when you have a problem like this, diseases don't recognize borders.
No,
so it's not really something you can just say, well, we're going to do it different here in Florida. I think it's okay to have different policies with regard to urban areas and rural areas, because rural areas just people are more spread out and it's just harder for something like this to spread. Not if churches are open and schools are open and everything. And if, it's just, listen, I think this is one of the toughest issues that we've ever had to deal with. I don't think there's any great solution, like perfect solutions that don't have some kind of serious fallout attached to it, So it's tough, so I can sit here and say, well, I think this, I think that, but either way you go, there's going to be something that's going to be hurt, whether it's the economy or public health, and it's tough, because a lot of people early on, and this is just the mentality of like, well, we can't really stop it, so we might as well just keep moving forward, and a lot of people are going to die, and that's just how it's going to be. But unfortunately, I don't think that really, obviously there's just the callous element of that, because a lot of those people are the same people that be like, all lives matter, or, I'm pro-life and every fetus matters, but you're okay with hundreds of thousands of people dying. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not very ideologically consistent. And I say it's one of those things where you can say that, right? And if you're generally young and healthy and you're not, the likelihood that you would die or get really sick is probably pretty low. It's a pretty easy thing to say. Or you have someone who is older who are like, well, you know what? I've heard this. They'll say, I would sacrifice myself. Like if I had to die to keep the economy open. I'm just like, one, that's a pretty bold thing to say. But two, you don't get to choose. True. We don't get to choose who dies. We don't get to choose who gets sick or who gets, really sick and, gets pushed to the brink of death, but it doesn't count as a death. And this is not the Hunger Games where you get to offer yourself as tribute. It just doesn't work that way. And the truth is, it's affecting mostly poor, working class, Black and Latino people in this country. That's who is disproportionately being affected by this disease. So it really pisses me off when people like Bill Maher and Elon Musk, who are rich, who are not going to feel the effects of this outside of their wallet, are telling people to just go back to normal. It's I don't know, it just bothers me.
Yeah, but then the crazy thing, this has kind of been the interesting thing about social media to a degree, is getting to be informed about some of the things that apparently I've missed. Like, apparently now Oprah's canceled, which I didn't know about until yesterday.
I mean, who's not canceled? That's what I don't know. Give me the not canceled. If you didn't get the cancel list versus the not cancel list, I think the not cancel list is way smaller.
I was just like, damn, they're going after. I feel like they're supposed to not Oprah, but I was like, I can't believe they went after Oprah.
Well,
but
Oprah, here's the thing: Oprah is rich now. So if you look at things in terms of power, not that rich now. I mean, she's been rich for a long time, but I'm saying, she's like a legitimate billionaire, right?
Yeah.
That basically, in order to make that much money, people kind of presume you had to do some ill gangster shit, Nefarious. Listen, I think there's maybe some credence to that. But usually when you're in that position to be at the head of a company or make real kind of decisions, there's, I don't know what she's canceled over, but I can imagine.
So apparently I don't remember, I didn't read who she had on. She was having like a live conversation type thing. And basically oh, really? You're going to leave him wide open for that? You missed anyway. You suck. But she was basically saying like, it was someone's white privilege that they were able to have these things unlocked for them and so forth. And then I guess the whole internet started backlashing on her and being like, you're a fucking billionaire. Like, you basically have white privilege now with the kind of money you have. And it was kind of like, wow.
I think that's absolutely insane. I mean, this is someone who built her wealth from nothing.
Absolutely.
And the truth is, if she wasn't famous, right? If Oprah was just a regular Black billionaire lady, the world would still treat her as a Black woman. All right. Privilege doesn't. Yes. Her being Oprah. Yes, that individual. But the thing is, the problem is, anytime when people kind of make these individual kind of distinctions, like, you are rich, you are famous, so therefore you are privileged. But we're not talking about individuals. We're talking about groups of people. Yes, of course. Can a Black person be rich? Yes. Can a Black person be president? Yes. But how does that speak on the masses? Overall, how are people affected? How are their lives? And that's a really dumb thing. Like, you'll sometimes you'll see people like, well, why are the NBA players protesting and saying things like their lives are great? I'm like, because they're not selfish pricks. because they're not just like
come out of that too.
I did great. I don't care if everyone else is suffering as long as I'm doing great. Like that, it makes no sense. Like the people are so, and like I said, not one of those players went out there and said, one black person can't make it. That's not the point. The point is they're the one in the million that got through. And, and the truth is it shouldn't have to be that you end up being Oprah to make it or being an NBA player to make it. There's 450 jobs in the NBA. That's not going to uplift communities. It's just not, so anyway.
That's like what was crazy to me about that too, is I was reminded of when she had Chappelle on her, when she still had a show, and it was around the time of, I think Obama was president, and they were her and him were trying to get the Summer Olympics in Chicago. And she was like, they turned us down. Why do you think that is? And he goes, cause they were expecting you to fucking open your pocket and be like, how much to get the games here? And you and Obama didn't do that. And it is kind of interesting. And when thinking about that joke all those years ago, is seeing people make the comment like, she's a billionaire. She could solve all these world problems. All these people can solve our world problems. And it's like, when has that ever happened though? When has
one person, even people who are like, well, if Jeff Bezos just gave everyone this much money, what? Everyone would have like $5,000. Okay. Then you spend that after a couple weeks. And then what else? One person can't really
everything.
Yeah, they can. One person can make their little dent in the world. And obviously, the more you have, the bigger a dent you can make. But yeah, I mean, listen, we're in a time of difficult times. People on whatever fringe find their boogeyman, find their scapegoat. And so for certain people, that's going to be billionaires. For certain people, that's going to be immigrants. For certain people, that's going to be, Jack who runs Twitter. It's going to be, racist cops or whatever. Or for some people, it's going to be terrorists, or some people, it's going to be neo-Nazis. I mean, whatever your boogeyman, there's plenty of them out there. And the truth is, if things aren't working out, it's got to be someone's fault. And that's where you got to kind of hone in on your energy. And, and that can be exploited. And listen, and I think to some degrees, yes, there are certain individuals and certain groups that deserve more blame for certain situations. And, and not everything's is equal. But I think if you kind of focus on that a little too much, then it kind of, kind of dices the world up into very black and white, good versus evil, kind of doesn't accurately describe the way I think the world actually works, which is way more complex.
I have, kind of one of the last questions I'll have on this topic, and then we'll kind of go to something way more lighthearted. But, I was trying to think recently, because I feel like you and I are roughly around the same age. I'm going to be 36 in like a month. I think you're like almost 40.
Yeah, I'll be 40 in a month.
Okay. So not that much.
2 months.
Not in age, but I was trying to think, when did this shift start happening where we start, like, there's always been a shift politically, like people being like, I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat or whatever, but when did we start going, well, you're this, so I can't even be friends anymore? When did that start happening politically? Like, I was trying to figure out, when did that happen? I mean,
social media, because
the advent of social media.
Yeah, because you never knew, like, you can, I remember like when Facebook popped off, when politics started really to infuse itself into social media, kind of during the Obama administration. I didn't know what certain people I knew felt politically, and so, and so I think based on that, it became like or just a real dividing line. Right. Like I had this funny story. I think I'm going to, if I ever write this book, I think it's going to be the opening scene where I was actually hooking up with this girl who was from Texas, and I had an Obama poster in my room, and she turned out she was like Republican anti-Obama, and it like ruined everything. It's so funny. But so I think it's this idea that your politics are an extension of your value system and your morality. So, so it's even further than that, right? It's not just politics. It's also, when you kind of look at the broader picture of cancel culture and all that, it's like guilty by association, right? So this is hey, the metalcore band, should I take the As I Lay Dying tour? Because if I do the tour, then now I'm co-signing this individual's actions, and then now I'm guilty by association, and then people can, and I think that's a really dangerous thing, even though in certain circumstances I can kind of understand that. Like, for example, I think it's, despite how entertaining it is, I think it's probably a bad look for Joe Rogan to align himself with an Alex Jones and give him a platform. I think it's really bad. I think it ultimately leads to bad outcomes. But in certain circumstances, it's like, someone like Tim Lambesis, should we forgive him? Should we say, hey, he did his time, he's out here? Or it's just like, well, certain, and I've talked to guys who are like, well, they're like, I could never tour with them because my wife would kill me. She would stop talking to me, right? And so it's, I don't know, it's a very strange thing, but I do think for people it's an extension of morality. So it's like, if you're a Trump supporter, that means you adopt his racist attitudes or his rhetoric or his actions, anti-immigrant stuff, and talking about these people or his, stuff with women and sexual assault and all that. So it becomes, because maybe you just vote for Trump because you like gun rights or something and you don't really care about his other stuff, but just by de facto of that, it means you kind of adopt everything about that person. Or if someone thinks you're liberal, it's like, well, you like to kill babies. So, or you want to open up the borders and it's like, it's really caricatures, where we kind of turn these political ideologies into identities. And I don't think people used to, always, I mean, obviously you had the hippies and stuff like that, it was kind of a political archetype, free love and end the war and all that stuff. But I just think it's more pronounced, and it's also more divided by where people live, So, some people are like, they're not religious, but they're born Jewish, their family's Jewish, so they're culturally Jewish, even if they don't practice the religion. I think politics is like that now, where people are culturally liberal because they just happen to live in New York City or San Francisco. And same thing, I think some people are culturally conservative because they happen to live in maybe a Midwest, kind of smaller town, where if you actually quiz them on what they actually believe, they're probably not as conservative or liberal as they really think they are. They just happen to be around something where that's the norm.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of funny you bring up the As I Lay Dying thing. I remember when talking with Ken from Unearth, because they had just been announced on the European run they were going to be doing. And I was like, dude, it was so weird. Seeing them specifically get a lot of backlash because a lot of people were like, as veterans of the scene, I would have expected more from them not taking a tour like that. A young up and coming band, what have you got to lose? It's exposure. It's this, it's that. And it was just kind of weird to see such a weird,
that was your viewpoint, or that's what people were saying to him?
That's what people were saying about Unearth. Because I talked to him, I think the day after that tour got announced that they were doing the European run. And so I asked him, I was like, is it weird that people people would hold you and your band in such high regard that they're like, I can't believe this band would go on tour with them. I thought so much bigger and better of Unearth as a whole that they would take this tour. And it's like that's a weird position to take too, where you're kind of lauding a band because of the tenure they have in a scene, but you're also then putting them down because they don't align with what you think a band of their tenure should doing.
Well, listen, I think the As I Lay Dying thing is a really interesting experiment in a lot of ways, because you're kind of seeing that the marketplace, the literal marketplace, does not align with kind of
morality.
Not morality, but with the kind of loud voices on these social spaces, right? So you could have all these people tell you, till the cows come home, how much they want to cancel As I Lay Dying, or people shouldn't like them, or people shouldn't support them. But the people who actually buy concert tickets and albums and like music and the consumers of that do want to see the band. So, and I get it. That's the way it is for a lot of these individuals. Louis C.K. didn't stop doing stand up. I mean, he took a little break, but his fans are his fans.
Dave Chappelle.
Yeah. And listen, I'm not into that situation. I think people should be allowed to work, and then the people should decide if they don't want to see him. If Louis C.K. books a tour and no one wants to see him, then people kind of decided, but the truth is you fuck up, you do, all kinds of people do bad things. It's like, think about the Ice-T's of the world who or Jay-Z's that tell you about the shit they were doing. I was dealing drugs, I was pimping women, I was robbing people, but they just didn't get arrested. They didn't go to jail for it.
Right.
But if they did go to jail for it, or all of a sudden we look at them different and say, well, he shouldn't be able to be a rapper because, and it's like, we have these like I said, we don't really think these things through. And I always tell people, I'm like, they need to go away. It's like, where should they go?
Right.
And they don't, but they haven't thought that far. It's just, what it is? It's we live in it's just the real world version of that, of just blocking someone, right? So I can block you, so you can't mess with me. I don't see any of your stuff. And they think the real world works that way. And it doesn't. You can't just cultivate reality to how you want it because it's inconvenient or it bothers you. It just doesn't work that way.
I feel like the thing for me, because like our show has made quite a bit of news off of the Esley dying thing. But, I've gotten a lot of people who ask me, like, because when I voice my opinions on these things, or at least this situation, I think for me, it comes back to a broader, do you believe in rehabilitation? Do you believe that if someone goes away to jail, that they can be rehabilitated? That's kind of at the fundamental core of it all. That's where I kind of land. And I feel like if people go no, then I feel like Tim isn't really the reason that we need to be upset. We need to look at that judicial system and the way that we have these things in place. Because if you don't think that someone should be rehabilitated, then I guess, what are we doing with jails and prisons and all?
But by the way, I get back at you. 90% of these people that'll sit there and tell you Tim Lambesis needs to go away, he needs to be canceled, are the same people who are like, we need to defund the police, and I hate Joe Biden because he helped pass the 94 crime bill, and we need to, you have all these offenders of nonviolent crimes in jail. Like, all those same people, they're like, it's illiberal in its, in its base, right? Like, either you believe in rehabilitation or you don't.
Yeah.
And the truth is, I think those people are not too dissimilar from the country at large. I think we are not a very forgiving people. We want our system to be punitive. That's like, the suffering is baked in, right? Why do you think we have solitary confinement? Why do you think, it's like, it's this idea, like the whole point is not rehabilitation. We send people to jail because we want them to suffer. And we want them to hurt. We want them to lose. And then we come out, they get out of jail, and we say, you know what? Let's keep that suffering going. Let's see so you can't vote. Let's do it so you can't get a job. Let's do it so that you have to do crime because you've been cut out of the system. And it's insanity. And it just creates a cycle. And it doesn't make any sense. And I get it. There are certain crimes that, yes, people should certainly go away for and not get out. I think that's definitely true. But I think there's also plenty of people who wouldn't be who they were if they didn't screw up and learn from their mistakes. So, I don't know. It's really at the heart, like I said, of this country. And I think it goes across what we've seen is that it goes across political spectrum. It's not just conservatives who want law and order. Liberals do too. They just do it in different ways, right? And I get it. A lot of these people don't go to prison. Like Kevin Spacey didn't go to jail, and R. Kelly still hasn't gone to jail, right? So some people have not really paid they paid kind of a social cost, but not a literal
Has Bill Cosby
justice.
gone to jail?
Who?
Bill Cosby? Has he gone to jail yet?
Yep. I think he's still in jail. He's in jail. Harvey Weinstein just went to jail. Yeah. So, some of the worst offenders, and obviously Jeff Epstein was in prison when he died. So, or, whatever. But so I get it. Some people are not, suffering those causes. And with regards to Tim, he did go to prison. Some people say, well, he should have went to jail for longer. I don't know if that's true. I don't know what is fair, what is normal, what is, like I said, did he not suffer enough? Is there a suffer meter? What if you go to jail and find yourself? I don't know. It's like, but it's like you gotta lose something. I don't know.
Without going into the specifics, because it's not my story to tell, a really close friend of mine went to prison, and seeing how social media, people who had no idea the circumstances of what happened, why things happened, a lot of the behind the scenes things that happened, commenting on this photo of them, like, well, you could tell this person has no remorse for what they did because they're smiling in the photo.
They took a picture.
You're like, it's a fucking mugshot. And like, it's like, that, like, and I wanted, like, and it was so hard because, like, I wanted to comment and be like, you weren't there when I had to have, like, the last breakfast with this person, knowing they're going to be going away for 2 years, and they had to hug their child goodbye and their mom, and they're crying, and like all of the real emotional side of that shit. It's like, it's so easy for you to sit there and go, here's my thought based on one single fucking photo. And then the next news story will pop up and here's your 2 cents on that. It's real easy to be a casual know-it-all, I guess, really, with social media. But it was just like, between that and like a death of a friend that ended up on the news and people commenting that had no fucking idea about anything, it's really soured me on that shit, where it makes me realize that it's like, you're commenting on this because in your timeline you see this, and then you're going to leave your comment, and then the next story will pop up a couple minutes later, or the next thing you're going to comment on, and you're going to completely forget all about that thing that you were all riled up about for 2 seconds. But that's someone's the rest of their life. That's a life-changing moment for a handful of people. And it's really weird to think about that in today's society, where so many people will say something shitty because it's an anonymous platform, more or less, and then they just go on about their day. And it's like, it's kind of not how like real life works at times. Like you can't, I guess you can say whatever the fuck you want with no repercussion, but it also kind of makes me realize how just fucking wild things are. Like how, like I could see something like, with your mother passing, like, I don't know what that was like, especially during COVID times and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, I can imagine. But it's like, I couldn't imagine someone using that as a platform to be like, well, it's all a fucking bullshit hoax, this COVID thing and blah, 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 and turning it into something else because they're fired up about something else, and then seeing you post your thing on a timeline and then commenting on your thing and then just letting it be because they just had to get it out. And it's like, but you're on the other end of that going like, your comment is very irrelevant to what I'm actually going through. And this is a moment that will impact me for the rest of my life. I will never forget this moment. And for some of the people that make the comments that they do, you're just like, wow, like, it is fucking shocking that people feel they have the voice or a voice to say some of these things sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, everyone's a mind reader, right? So everyone, oh, well, you did this, that means you think this, and it's just a lot of presumption and assumption. Like I always say, that's why I think we throw around terms like racism and white supremacy, and it's like you don't really know how people feel in their hearts. To me, that's what that thing is. More often than not, is what how do you really feel? Do you really and it's this weird thing of like, you're looking for this evidence. Are you one of the people that's how you feel? It's like, you can have the most polite person who never says anything and is at the Black Lives Matter rally and like, yeah, like, and in their mind, they're like, it could be a Klan rally in their head. You would have no idea, right? So it is like this idea of trying to actually get in the head, like your friend, like, oh, well, clearly he has no remorse. It's like, you just don't know what's going on with people. And you can only, until we invent something that can read people's minds, for most people, we're not going to know. And we have to just rely on what, what they communicate, unfortunately.
Speaking of communicating and some of the things we kind of been touching on, I wanted to talk about The Last Dance because, like, I know you were pretty hype on it, talking in your pre and post interviews on the podcast about talking about The Last Dance, and it's something that it's been kind of weird because, like, I think all of the true basketball fans and the fans of the era of basketball at that point watched it first run. And now everyone's kind of getting the second wave of it with it being on Netflix now. So it's been kind of interesting to see people who I think are casual sports fans or just saw a bunch of us, posting about it on socials and we're like, oh, I'll check it out now that it's on a platform I can get readily. And it's been kind of weird because, like, talking to some people, like, someone was like, I don't recall Michael Jordan being, like, kind of a bad guy, being a villain, the way that sort of the documentary kind of portrays him at times, because he obviously had, say in Final Cut and so forth. And it kind of helped push the narratives that I feel like he wanted to push. Like, still the Isaiah Thomas thing is still pretty present. He's pretty upset about it. The shit with Horace Grant obviously still is an issue with him and him pushing the narrative that Horace, basically was the leak in the locker room and so forth. And so, kind of on The Last Dance, like, a question that I've kind of been thinking about is, do you feel that The Last Dance maybe hurts the legacy of the Bulls? Because now you're seeing a lot of people airing dirty laundry that we had no clue about and have no real right to know what is going on in that locker room. Do you think it kind of takes away from the mysticism of the team?
No, I think it only elevates the stature and more respect, because I think you're talking about process, but ultimately it's about results. And so people don't look at, okay, maybe Michael Jordan was a dick. Maybe Michael Jordan was pushy. Maybe he was a bully. Maybe he pushed people too hard. Maybe he talked to people some kind of way. But if people look at that and they say, well, it worked. So it's like a lot of people will just say, well, then that's how I have to be. I got to be more of a dick. I got to push people around. But the truth is, I don't think you can really, to me, it's like just something I think about a lot, about style, right? Like, is it like if Michael was more laid back with other people and a little more nice, would they have made that difference? Like, would they have lost more championships? I don't know. I can't really say that. So it's sometimes no matter what, people, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. We'll say, well, you got to be a dick, but and he's not the only one. You've heard similar things about Steve Jobs, or I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but we definitely heard. But guess what? Magic Johnson apparently was a really nice guy. He won a lot of championships. Steph Curry's a really nice guy. He's got a handful of championships. So I just think it speaks to the era, where it was just it's an old school mentality. And I just think Michael is just a 1 in a billion kind of human being, where he was that good, where he could kind of get away with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you were, because, Kobe was a dick, right? But I think he's kind of a dick because he's like, oh, that's how Michael is. That's how you're supposed to be, right? But he wasn't even, the best player on his team for the first 3 championships he won. And he was still a dick, averaging 37 a game, and didn't make the playoffs or got knocked out in the first round. So you could be the biggest dick in the world, but if you don't have a good team, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, you still need to have a great team. You still need to have a great coach. You still need to have all these other things work out. But honestly, it made me respect him more because I think he actually is being honest throughout the documentary. So I think the fact that he was being open about, I feel this way, and yeah, he holds grudges and he's kind of petty, Yeah. And that's what kind of like, so I just respect the fact that he is showing this side of himself. And it seemed like when he was talking about people, he was giving pretty honest opinions about individuals, about situations. And I thought that was great. And I think it actually is going to gain more respect from people. Because I think in many ways he's the quintessential public face and private face, right? He literally speaks differently. Like when the cameras aren't on and he's not in press conference mode, he's like a country dude who just is like talking shit and like cracking on people and being just, and then you get the camera, he's like, well, the game of basketball, what I need to do, the city of Chicago, and and he's like a politician. He literally is. So in a sense, I think people he of all the people in the world, he doesn't have to be honest. So actually, I know he had Final Cut, and there's probably things like the stuff with his dad, maybe they didn't go as deep in if he didn't have a hand in that. But I would trade that to get all that candidness from him. You know what I'm saying? Because if he didn't have Final Cut, maybe you don't get all that stuff. Maybe he would be more closed off.
Yeah, I think it was kind of interesting. I mean, I think each episode basically started off by explaining, the NBA Jordan and all of them gave the NBA film crew unprecedented access to them during their last championship run. I think the thing that was kind of interesting to me, and I, having watched a handful of the 30 for 30s, I guess there's not necessarily a style one way or the other. Like, it's like, oh, this is the format and this is how you go. But I was pleasantly surprised to see how much backstory they were trying to include as you're moving forward a little bit. Basically going through and being like, here's the backstory of Jordan as a youth, growing up and, playing for Carolina and so on and so forth, getting drafted, kind of the where the Bulls franchise was at the time, but then moving it forward in conjunction with the last season and some of the ups and downs that they were having as well. I really wasn't expecting it to go forward to tell the going backwards to tell the forward story, because I figured it was just something everyone knew inherently,
No, I mean, listen, I think a lot of people don't know, because there's been there's been a whole documentary on Dennis Rodman, and there's been stuff, but a lot of that stuff about Scottie Pippen, I didn't know. Steve Kerr, I follow him pretty close, so I knew about the stuff with his dad and kind of his upbringing and stuff. But no, I thought it meant probably the best piece of media to come out of this whole time period, and because I could have kept watching that for weeks after. And it would have been, and it's like, it's kind of cool though, because I hope hopefully this inspires other works like that. Like, obviously there's only one 96 Bulls team, but if there was something like this about the Miami Heat, LeBron Miami Heat team, I would be fascinated by that. If there was something about anytime there's a 30 for 30, whether it's the Bad Boys, Pistons, or Michigan, Fab Five. I mean, I eat that stuff up.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if they would end up doing. For me, I think the next one that would be interesting would be like that Lakers 3-peat team that ended up winning, because I feel like there was so much dysfunction within those ranks.
There hasn't been anything made about that?
Not that I'm aware of. If there has, it's gone just right by me, but I feel like that would be one that you could do an interesting. Hell, I mean, whenever, I mean, it's inevitable it'll happen, but whenever they do a 30 for 30 on Kobe, I feel like there's going to be so much interesting stuff about it, because of the time he came in. Like, that was kind of one of the interesting episodes, is when Jordan at the All-Star game is like, that Laker kid's going to try to show out. And, like, they're just talking about him. They don't even like call him by his name. He's just that Laker kid. And it's like wild to watch that and be like, I was a fucking kid, like probably like maybe a freshman in high school, if watching that game and just being like, here's a dude that's like not much older than me playing against fucking Michael Jordan and like balling out.
Yeah, I mean, but it kind of spoke to. It's funny because the thing he was saying, he's like he doesn't even care about what he's shooting, and it's funny because it actually kind of tells you the difference between Jordan and Kobe. Is like Jordan was just a bit more disciplined and a bit more, selective when it came to how he got his shots. Whereas like Kobe was almost like he's almost taking the hardest shot possible sometimes. Oh, look at this guy. Oh, wow.
Got a special guest. Got a special guest in this motherfucker.
How the hell are you two doing?
Hanging in there. Hey, there. Look at this smiling son of a bitch. All right, put that away. All right, serious times here.
Wait. What's the topic? Where are we at? What topic are we on?
Talking about Kobe Bryant in the Last Dance documentary, and they were talking. Jordan was like, that Laker boy is just going to try to show us up.
Oh yeah, that whole documentary itself was just like eye-opening and almost. I personally, I know I'm walking in here. I think it solidified the idea that those dudes were just bad in so many more ways compared to everybody else that would be considered a dynasty now in the NBA. Like, I don't know. The Warriors, the modern Warriors, are those Bulls. I'm guessing both of you would pick those Bulls.
No, I think the Warriors. I think
the Warriors had more shooting and depth.
I think the
honestly.
2017 Warriors would beat them because I just think 3 equals more than 2, and I think you just look at man for man. You got the Warriors got 2 MVPs, Bulls only got 1.
That's true.
Just the 3-point shooting. I mean, they're like, literally. I mean, their 5th guy is like Iguodala,
who's MVP, right?
Olympian, well, Finals MVP, Olympian, All-Star, All Defense. That's like their 5th guy. I mean, and listen, the Bulls' 5th guy, is like Ron Harper, who before he got injured was a 20-point a game, All-Star caliber guy too. Kukoc, really underrated player. I think that guy would have been great in any era.
I really like the profile they gave him on the documentary.
Yeah. Coach?
Gave him a lot of work.
But could Rodman stay on the floor in today's era, a non-shooter? Whereas the Warriors, every guy can at least score competently.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. There's no Kevin Durant. I'm sorry, a 6'11" shooting guard.
Yeah.
Like who the hell's gonna guard him? I mean, Scottie Pippen probably do as good as anyone in the world. Could, but still.
I think the thing for me about that, because a lot of people have, with Rodman being one of my favorite players ever, I feel like the thing that like everyone forgets, and the Last Dance kind of highlighted it again, and his 30 for 30 did as well. Granted, when he got in the NBA, Daly was like, "You're not going to be a scorer in this league. Like there's too many other people who are better at it than you. Find something else that's going to be your niche and kind of hang your hat on that." But it's a thing where for that, I think people forget that Rodman was averaging like 30 in college. He was a scorer.
But we're talking about the Bulls era, Dennis Rodman.
I know, but I mean,
if he hit a jump shot, it was like Hoosiers or something, and won the championship. I mean,
well, I was gonna say, remember that game?
But by today's standards, I'm saying that the scouting and the level of the way they'll find someone and then they'll target you, and they play people out of the games. I mean, Andrew Bogut could not get on the floor in 2000, was it 16, whatever, because they find that you are susceptible, then they will play you out of the game. So I just wonder that. I'm just saying the Warriors, because of the modern era, they didn't have anyone that the only person you can really say is maybe Draymond, but sometimes Draymond will come in and hit 5 threes in a game.
Well, I think that alludes to like the whole scenario of specialization back in that era, because didn't they allude to the fact that Rodman kind of was an all-around player, but he kind of just leaned back because he was almost asked, and then just took on this role as this beast under the boards. But it's more than
some people contend that Horace Grant, that if Horace Grant was on the 3 championships later, that maybe they're even better. Because he can rebound, defend, but he could also score, and he could also but here's the thing too. I mean, Rodman as a defender, is insane. And kind of underrated passing. Playing in the triangle, you have to be a good passer from the elbows.
Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know. I'm really enjoying watching the Jazz right now. In my opinion, I don't know why. I'm just like a big fan of Donovan Mitchell. Just absolutely killing it.
Dude, that triple overtime game was insane this past weekend.
Yeah. For me, he's like the most exciting thing that I'm watching in the bubble. Well, next to Dame. Just smashing everything right now.
How kind of speaking of the bubble, how has it been interesting to either of you, I guess, to see how well the NBA has been doing with their bubble lockdown? And I know right now the big thing is how well is this going to work once some of the spouses and family members are able to kind of start coming once the playoffs get in. But I think I just saw a stat like out of their 324 tests that they did this past week or whatever, they have 0, like nobody. and no one has had a positive test, I think, in the last like 2 weeks or so at least. Is it kind of interesting to see how well this is working in spite of so many people saying that this would fail because of just the nature we live in now, where people are like,
I find the progressive attitude that the NBA exudes working in that effect, as like, you see baseball, they're like, we're not doing that type of bubble thing. Like, we're not doing that. And where the hell's the MLB right now? The NFL is a little more difficult. I don't know how that's going to play out. And I personally don't think there'll be a season, but I think Silver is just a really, really good leader. And I think that they came up with ideas like, it's simple. This is how it's going to work. Who's going to buy in? Let's make the season happen. And I think it's working pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. I just think it's the easiest league to do it. You have the least amount of human beings physically. I think, and more than any other league, also the players had to decide if they wanted to do this. And so I think if you look at all the stuff they're doing with like kind of the social justice imagery and kind of all that stuff, you can tell the players bought in to the whole idea of it. And so it's a player empowered league. And then and beyond that, the actual thing I'm most amazed by is just the product on the court. I just did not think it could be this good, that without fans, it would still, the way they frame it with the virtual fans and the crowd noise, that you barely miss it. Maybe except at the end of games. And that everyone came in basically in shape and kind of ready to play, which is kind of hard to believe. But I'm really not surprised because I don't really watch any other sports anymore regularly. And part of that, I just think it is a league where every year it's constantly evolving, it's constantly changing. They're always trying things with rules and trying different things and constantly growing. They're not staying static.
Yeah, I think that starts with Silver. I think it's just going really well.
What was one of the bigger surprises going back to the Last Dance? What was one of the bigger surprises that out of that documentary that like you just never knew?
I'm trying to think. I think that the Scottie Pippen stuff, kind of like with his, I remember they were talking about when he like wouldn't go back in the game.
Yeah, I had no idea about that.
Just that, and like the whole contract situation, that he was underpaid, and it's just this weird thing where publicly he was seen as kind of like a troublemaker, but behind the scenes everyone said he was like the nicest guy in the world and like the best teammate, but he just made like a couple mistakes that came back to haunt him down the line. Like just his public reputation was really hurt by not going in that game, and then his whole life was screwed up by taking a really bad contract. And to a certain degree, I can't really be, I can't, like, he can't really be mad at anyone else. Like, you signed the deal, you did something stupid business wise, and it's not necessarily manager. Yeah, but it's not incumbent upon the people that you signed a deal with to change the deal because you signed a bad deal.
I think two of the biggest surprises for me were I just really enjoyed seeing the struggles Jordan had early in his career, because all you hear about how absolutely amazing it was, and I didn't really know much about him in college, so I liked the highlight of his college years, and I really enjoyed the whole storyline about everybody shitting on the GM, and really appreciated that, because just aesthetically, you look like that guy. I was just like, oh man, you want to hate him, but he also built that whole thing. But then he had bad blood with a lot of important people. So that whole dynamic was just really interesting. But they were able to hold it together to build that whole thing.
Well, did you guys hear the thing that basically he would have stayed, like there was a chance he would have signed with the Knicks in the offseason, but basically the Knicks didn't ever think they'd have a chance to get him. So they traded for Latrell Sprewell. And so and he would have played for the Knicks. It almost happened twice. Like before that thing, there was a situation before the last few years, there was a situation where the Knicks wanted to sign him and he basically they changed the rules so that they could pay, so the Bulls could pay him more than the actual salary cap to keep him. And then this happened. It was basically this thing like Bill Simmons' theory that part of the reason why Jordan retired was he had nowhere to go. That literally no team could pay him, what he wanted. So it was just there was no. The salary cap was very restrictive back then, and he wanted to come back. But this is alternate universe where he could have went to the Knicks, and LeBron has said apparently multiple times that the Knicks were like always his second choice, and it just didn't work out that way. So
the last basketball game I attended, aside from the Cavs game with you, Doc, was that Knick game, one of the main Knick games when they were courting LeBron, trying to get him to go there. And I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen just a fan base virtually, like almost to everybody's knowledge, have no shot of grabbing this guy, but everyone was going nuts for him. And that's why the whole stadium, the arena was packed out. That was the most packed I've ever seen MSG in my entire life. And it was cool. It was really cool. But that would have been amazing.
Well, woulda, coulda, shoulda.
What's up? Yeah, right?
Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
That's every New York team ever right now. Ever. I will never see a championship in my adult life. I'm convinced by that. I saw the Rangers win in '94, and I couldn't even go out and celebrate other than banging a pot and pan in my underwear. And that was it. I'm screwed. I'm never going to see shit. So.
I remember the first time I realized LeBron was like legit was the year after the Pistons won that championship against the Lakers, and they were going through the playoff run the next year. It was the Eastern Conference Finals, and I remember being at the holy shit, that was nice stuff. Was at the bar, and LeBron just rattled off like the next 20 some odd points to beat the Pistons to then advance the Cavaliers against the Spurs, and I was like, all right, I think this dude's pretty fucking legit and probably gonna be like, if they get some players behind him, this dude could be something.
Yeah, that is true.
I mean, even all the high school sports magazines, because I was around, graduated in the same year. Just you knew about him wherever the hell you were, everywhere. Any type of high school sports publication, it was all about him. It was impressive. It was absolutely impressive.
I think what was wild about that, and I was just so today actually, two of my coworkers who are not into sports at all kind of said what I think is ignorant shit, saying that basically athletes should not make the millions and millions that they do. There should just be a base salary of $500,000, and that's what everyone should make unilaterally across the board. And that the extra money comes from endorsements, whatever. And I was like, these people go to college and get exploited basically for anywhere from a year to 3 or 4. And their window to make as much money is, especially like when we were talking about football, I was like, the opportunity once your rookie contract is done to make some decent money, if you are a like top tier athlete, you probably got a 5-year window to make as much as you can. And that's even barring that it's not incentive laden and you don't get injured that ruins your career. And they're still like, so that's a sport. You're an entertainer. You chose that life, that you chose that career. And I was like, but like, if you're the best at something, shouldn't you be rewarded for like all the work and sacrifice and the amount, like, I don't know. It was just kind of interesting to like watch people just be like, people don't deserve to be paid based on the output of being the best. And I was like, we work at a job where like, that's sort of the crux of everything is like, I hope I make more money because like, I'm really good at this job and I'm better than these people. So I should be rewarded financially as a result of that. Like, if you're saying that you don't believe athletes should do that and there's market proof that they're better than people, then why do you think you deserve any more money?
Not only that, I think if anything, the opposite is true, that athletes are underpaid because almost every sport besides baseball has a salary cap. So you can't, you can literally put it. So when like LeBron James goes from Miami back to Cleveland, you can put a monetary value on what he actually adds to the literal local economy of the area in Ohio in terms of what he actually does. And it's not in the millions, it's in the billions. So
and that's probably around the league too, whenever he shows up, like you guys were talking about the game.
Exactly. Like when he shows, but when he comes to your team has more value, like as a literal company, as a business, and he's just one person. But it's like I said, if there was no salary cap in the NBA, you are essentially worth what the market will bear. So he'd be making between $50 and $100 million a year. That's literally what he's worth. I mean, it's like the richest people in the country are like, is Jeff Bezos like 100 times better at his job than like the guy that runs Google or something? No, he just happened to be in a company that the one company that self-organizes itself monopolistically, so that his worth is, what's the word I'm looking for? Exponential. He has exponential growth in his money because of how the business self-organizes itself. Not that he's that much smarter than anyone else. Just, why does some derivatives trading guy on Wall Street make like $100 million? He makes the same amount of money as LeBron James. Is he the best at that? Or is it just he just happens to be in a business that can exploit money? Like, their little job is to make money out of money.
Right.
So what do you do? I make money. But what do you do? What do you actually add? Do you make anything? No. Do you build anything? No. Do you provide any services? I make other people money. And it's just literally finding a way to manipulate numbers on screens. And for some reason, those people make more money than LeBron James. It's fucking, what the motherfucker that owns the team? How did he get the team? What did he do?
See, I've had this conversation with a lot of people, and I'm clearly not a numbers person. I don't know if either you guys are good with numbers, but that stuff is just so soul-sucking and so difficult when you get to the highest types of industry when it comes to that. So if you have the wherewithal to be good with numbers to the point where you're like an actuary and you're doing all these amazing things and you could basically write your own check legally, I think they deserve that type of money, because I know I can't do that type of shit. And I see people running around, their heads are buried 24/7 working on these like financial products and manipulating them the right way. And it's just like, if it's legal and you're doing these things because you just have the wherewithal to do them, I think that's worth tons and tons of money. But obviously when you're dealing with sports, the line between entertainment and sport is very thin, and that gets taken advantage of from the people whose sole purpose is to make money, and it has nothing to do with sport, which I think the NCAA is dealing with that horribly now, because the amount of revenue that they're losing, and the first two dominoes fell, and I'm waiting for the Big 12. Once the Big 12 calls it, it's done, because that's the South. That's where that majority South. That's where they're really holding out. But Pac-12 and the Big 10 just. Did
you see this bullshit Nebraska was trying to do today?
Yeah, I don't understand. I can't even understand where. How you if you can't see the writing on the walls and you just want to come off stubborn, then you're gonna just that. You're gonna come off stubborn, because I don't see it happening. Nobody wants to see a shorter season where it's just conference games. No. If it's not at full blast, people aren't going to care, let alone students. So the bottom line is going to get deteriorated no matter what. So going back to what you were saying, Doc, is just, like the amount of money that these kids are worth and that they are bringing to the table is unbelievable. And schools are now, they're trying to make up for it by not having students come to campus at all, because they know that they're going to lose so much just by football season. So, and this is going to spark, I think it was Stephen A. You said it the other day, this is going to spark, no matter what happens, in some way, students being represented, maybe not unions, but they're going to somehow get represented. They're going to take more of a stand for themselves. And that already started, in California?
Yeah.
California 2 years ago. That already started. So that domino fell. But this is just going to cause even more things to happen for students to represent themselves and get some compensation for the amount of money that they're bringing to universities. It's insane. I think it's great, though. Yeah. I know Michigan's going to lose a bunch of money, but you guys aren't going to have a good season anyway. So,
hey, if we were playing an all Big Ten schedule, we probably would have gone like,
dude,
we'd have lost like one game.
You just got to get rid of Harbaugh. And then we can stop talking NCAA, because I know Doc's probably like, huh?
We kind of talked about it one of the other times he was on, where, we kind of were trying to break down the math, I think, previously, where it's like, I think the pseudo quote unquote fair thing to do would be to try to figure out a prorated amount where it's like, okay, this is what your college education is worth. we'll deduct that. But I think like in the last one of the first times Doc and I were talking, we did bullshit numbers where it's like, okay, Michigan, one of the largest stadiums in college football holds like 112,000 people or whatever. Just say the average ticket is, we'll say $50. Now you do all the math and it's like, okay, you're in the millions just from ticket revenue alone. How much of that, if you divvy that between the players or whatever, to kind of like, okay, you play this amount of games and then like your college is paid for, quote unquote. Then after that, we cut you a percentage of
but dude,
whatever.
That's not where dude, that ain't the money. The money is in sponsorships and
for sure,
and the TV deals.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying, like, as one revenue stream, like just that one.
Well, but it shouldn't be about that. It should be about, I want to know who's getting the money now. Where does all the money go? The college puts that money in the bank. College gets the money. NCAA gets the money. I don't know all that March Madness money. Ad money? Who's getting the CBS money? Where is it going? Take that money, put it in a trust. However you want to figure it out, but you need to hit these dudes off.
Absolutely.
I'm with you on the first thing that you were saying that you guys said you came up with, because I think the biggest gripe for a lot of the students, a lot of the big name students, is their naming rights. So yep. I think it would be fair, especially if you're having college. It's like at the end of the day, they are college students, and a good amount of money will go a long way. And I feel like that I don't know. I'm speaking.
At the end of the day, they're college students? No, they're not. Yo, if Zion goes for one semester, he ain't no damn college student. He's a professional athlete who is forced to go there. Because
who was it that just talked about that?
Who the rules say he can't go to the NBA until he's 19.
I guess, yeah.
Who was it that just went pro? I think it was like last year. It was his rookie season. I can't remember who it was. He played the 1 year. His team like went to the Sweet 16. And like his tutor or whatever is like, all right, well, like you got this exam. He's like, nah, fuck that. I'm done. Like I played my one season. I'm getting the fuck out of here. I don't give a shit about the fucking exams. Nothing. I can fucking fail out of college and it has no bearing on anything. I forget who it was, but I know like as soon as he got into the NBA, he was just like, this one and done shit should be fucking over. Like worst case, go overseas, make some money, prove your worth over there while you're still getting paid, and then come back over to the NBA and fucking make your money.
You know what college. At least with the NBA, it's like Ticketmaster, right? Like
not bad.
They were if at a certain point you find one of the biggest keys I find to making a bunch of money is to just be a middleman, right? Oh, we lost you for a second. Yeah. So now at a certain point, I'm sure you needed Ticketmaster to like make these connections, but is there any real reason for Ticketmaster to exist? Like, why can't I just go to, if I'm going to the whiskey, why can't I just go to whiskey.com and buy tickets from there? Yeah. Why do I need, it's the internet. I don't need, but they're Ticketmaster. They've built this market share and so they're like, well, I'm a middleman. I'm not going to lose out. Once you're the middleman and you're getting paid, you can't just give it up. So you have to, it's the same thing as like a
PayPal,
law.
Would that be PayPal too?
To a degree, I guess, but PayPal, like, it's a good service. Like I use PayPal. It is an exchange and it's a service and they provide a service and I use it. So I guess that makes it valuable. Right. But I'm just saying, but what I'm saying, so the NCAA, like they were there and that's what was just normal as you go to college. And now people are like, well, we don't have to. And they're like, well, we're used to getting this money. Yeah. You can't just not use us. You know what I'm saying? So, or it's like there's this law in New Jersey where you had to buy a car from a car dealership and they were trying not to let them sell Teslas in New Jersey. And they're like, well, you have to have a dealership. But only because it's like, it's a middleman. It's like, I need to get my cut. It's like some mafia shit. Like, yo, I got to get my 15%.
Bumpy. 15%.
Yeah, but that's it. You just figure out how to be a middleman, and then once you have power, you're like, well, I'm just going to get my cut forever just because.
Yeah.
Do you think with the advent of a lot of developmental leagues across a lot of sports, do you think we're going to see the traditional NCAA grooming, I guess, for lack of a better term, go away?
I mean, it depends to what extent it's even going on right now. I think ultimately it's better for students or for young people to go to college for a couple of years to just mature, get that experience being around people. I think, there's traditions, like there's something cool about going to Duke and being in the tournament. Like, it's a good experience, but at the same time, you should be forced to do it. And for some players, they're good enough. They just don't need to. And they're like, you know what? I can only make money for so long. And every minute I'm not making money, that's money that I can never get back. Then, you should do that. Or I don't know, maybe draft them at a high school.
Like baseball?
And and then they go to college and then but they still get paid. And then they go to college and they come in when they want to.
It seems like a decent model that would work for the NBA.
The baseball model?
Yeah.
But the whole idea is, well, they're not. If they're getting paid, they're not pressure. But it's like you can't rob them.
We all know. We all know they're professionals in the NCAA at this point. You know what I mean? Like, trying to play that facade is just tired. It doesn't work anymore. People know what's going on. I mean, how many indictments or scandals or court cases are going to come every single year about taking gifts or taking monetary funds for services in the NCAA? Like, it's going to keep on happening. Like, that Zion Williamson one happened and went away like that, and I didn't even know the details about it. Like, and he was like the biggest name to come into the NBA, but he obviously stepped in it a little bit.
No one needs to say nothing about Zion. That dude brought more money to the NCAA and Duke than anyone. If they're like, yo, we literally gave this motherfucker an aircraft carrier or a fucking or a fighter jet. I'm like, yo, well, you didn't give him enough.
Yeah.
Like, shut the hell up with Zion.
It's like Blue Chips. It wasn't just
a great movie.
It was fully loaded.
What I'm saying is, he is, a guy like that comes around every 10 years, maybe, where they're just like, I was barely watching college basketball, and it's like, Zion, I watch every game that was on TV.
Hell yeah. That dude was.
I got to catch one of his games back this past season. Playing against the Grizzlies, actually, against Ja Morant. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Sounds great. Wish I was there, buddy.
I'll text you a video of him getting an alley-oop. It was amazing. Okay. And my wife was like, how'd you know that was going to happen? I was like, I play a lot of 2K.
Who you guys find more exciting to watch right now, Ja or Zion?
Well, I mean, Zion ain't done shit since the bubble started, so I guess I'm going to have to go to Ja Morant.
I was even going to say Ja just since the beginning of the season. He's just been so damn dynamic watching him play, even though, like, Zion is like, he's going to throw a few down that are just ridiculously hard. But the things that Ja Morant can do, they're just fun to watch.
Yo, you guys are all wrong. Zion, someone just throw the ball poorly to him, and he'll just jump up and grab it. And that'll be the only thing that happens. And it's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I've never seen anyone like him.
Because he's still a teenager doing it over grown-ass men.
Dude, he did this one play in the preseason against the Knicks where he literally just took the ball from Kevin Knox.
Yeah, I remember.
Just took the ball and just shit on him right in his face and was like Kevin Knox is like a second-year, third-year player at that point. You're just like, what's the point? Like, this dude, I'll say, Zion, the highest PER ever in the history of the NBA is like 32, right? I think like Wilt Chamberlain had it, or LeBron, or something like that in that range. Zion's PER in college was 40. This dude, it shoots like 71% from the field. He comes in, he's like basically scoring like a point a minute in the NBA. Shooting like 70%. Like, it makes no sense just what he can do. It's like changes, like the key goes out there and the Pelicans win, and then doesn't out there, they don't win. And Ja's amazing. And if he's on the Knicks, I would basically die happy. But like I said, we've seen players like Ja. We've seen Russell Westbrooks, we've seen Derrick Roses. But we ain't never seen anything like this. No. As long as he can stay healthy, which is a big question.
It gets me so nervous, man. His knees, I straight up just watch his knees every single game because he is like sort of like pigeoned in, and it's just like I'm just waiting for something to just rupture, and I'm just gonna get up and just turn the TV off and disappoint me because it's terrible.
Yeah.
That was the one reason I wanted to go see a Pelicans game this year, because I wanted to. Thankfully, like, he was playing. Because it is one of those situations where I feel like he's a 1 in generation kind of talent. So to be able to see him was really cool. And the fact that like after the fact, when I realized it was like, oh shit, like Ja Morant's playing, and that's pretty tight. Like potentially at the time, the 2 Rookie of the Year candidates playing it 1-on-1, and Pelicans happened to win that game. But it's I don't know. I feel like that's a big question mark on Zion. Like if he can stay healthy, he'll be amazing. Actually watching, I know Doc and I are watching the same game right now. I think the one that's been kind of surprising me lately has been Bol. I can't believe how well he's actually been adapting to the NBA game.
Everyone was talking about him. I don't even understand. Like, honestly, this shit is so depressing. When I see like Denver just pulling dudes off the scrap heap, pick 20, pick 58, and just immediately coming in, impact players. But yo, Miami Heat, right? Someone like tried to get me, like, because I was like, when they signed Jimmy Butler, I like tweeted, I was like, well, good luck being that perennial 7th seed, right? And then someone literally found my tweet from a year ago and was like, yeah, look at you. You feel pretty dumb now. I'm like, oh, yeah, because you could have predicted that the Miami Heat would find 3 draft picks between like 15 and 40 that would all become starters. And between the 3 of them will be average like 60 points a game or something like that. You could have predicted that. No, motherfucker. All right. But Miami Heat has 3 starters that are rookies or 3 starter level players. It might even be more than that. Denver's picking people 58 that are coming in and just doing crazy things. Knicks got lottery picks. They're like, man, I hope he get in the game. Nope. Maybe he might get some playing time today. I'm just like, yo.
They gotta start going to the parks. Everybody's playing ball. They got nothing better to do right now. You might as well just go pick somebody off the damn street. God damn. I can't even be bothered with any New York team. The Rangers just getting outed of that thing nice and quick. Can't get shit done with Lundqvist. And then you got
dude, I'm watching the Mavs Portland game. I'm like, here's Melo that they threw away. Lighting people up.
I'm guilty.
You know what I'm saying? Jab step.
I'm guilty. I want to Melo gone, though.
I see Porzingis over there, 36 points, grabbing rebounds, blocking shots. I'm like, man, I remember that guy. That was cool. That was nice. You know, who else in there? Oh, yeah, Tim Hardaway Jr. hitting threes.
Michigan man.
Even Trey Burke is getting playing time for the Mavs.
Yeah.
But my point is, it's just like I'm like, man, those guys they were okay. Why did I get it's just depressing. It's all.
I'm cool. Well, I mean,
Melo looks amazing. Like he looks like great. I'm like, this dude is like unstoppable.
What do you think it is? You think it's the market of being in New York? You think it's the ownership? Like, what do you think?
It's the owner.
Well, it's all that.
The owner.
Listen, with Melo, I actually think the reason why he was not out of the league, and I was like, oh yeah, it's like, oh, Melo to the Thunder, and he goes and plays with the guy with the highest usage rate of all time.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, Melo sucks. He didn't work out, right? Then it's like, all right, I'll go to Houston and I'll play with the other guy with the highest usage rate of all time.
And then
Melo sucks.
And then put them together.
Yeah. Well, my point is like those were probably the 2 worst places he could have gone, if you actually think about it.
Yeah.
And so if he was at a place that was a little more egalitarian, a little more free flowing, I think it would be different. And you're kind of seeing like it's not like Dame isn't an alpha and he doesn't shoot a lot, but it's just a lot more opportunity. Like the ball just seems to move a lot, and he's like kind of favored in the offense. He's like not like he's just given like kind of the green light, and he gets a lot of post touches. And honestly, this year he looks even better because his weight's down, so he just looks really mobile and quick, And he kind of, if he can't be that mobile, he can't really play the 3. Right. So I just can't believe just how smooth he looks. That turnaround to the left, I'm like, is that the smoothest turnaround to the left that anyone has ever had? It's so sweet.
Been working on it, doing it for decades at this point.
Yeah, but it's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I'm happy for him because he never really did anything wrong. Like if he was ever in the headlines, it was never for anything negative. Even when the Knicks were sucking and he was still throwing up as many shots as a game as he was, then that would drive me nuts. I always rooted for the guy because he's just a good dude. So seeing him having success on the back end of his career, I think it's radical.
Listen, I just think he was never a great defender.
Yeah.
Kind of a ball stopper, and that's going to turn off a certain kind of basketball fan. And I get it. I understand it.
I called him Stacey Patton. You guys seen Eddie? He was Stacey Patton to me. Every time towards the end of his time in the Knicks, I was like, get Stacey Patton off the fucking court. I'm tired.
Is that from Celtic Pride?
I remember it.
Is that Celtic Pride?
No, that's Eddie.
Eddie, yeah.
With
Eddie.
Goldberg.
Yep.
I was like, what?
When Gary Payton looks in the limo, he's like, not from back in no limo, you not. Come out back. Bring your game. Listen up, street boy. Stacey Patton, whoop your ass.
I don't even know if I've definitely seen part of that movie, but I don't remember it. If whatever I did see.
That surprises me. That really surprises me. I mean, Celtic Pride's better though. At least it's funnier.
Either of you catch? I'm sure Doc did. Either of you catch Uncut Gems?
Oh hell yeah!
Oh, I saw it.
Yeah, the ending of the game that was in question, I was like, well, I already know how this game ends because I remember watching it. Like, did that ruin that for you? Either of you? Like that you and like, let's say we're gonna revision history. It like you're like, I already know how this game ends.
Well, I wasn't sure because I didn't know which game in the series it was.
I think it was Game 7, wasn't it?
But you can literally just look it up if you wanted to. But I didn't know which game in the series it was.
I did say to myself in the movie, I'm like, well, I know the Celtics win, so I mean,
yeah.
By the way, they were trying to get what's his name? Originally supposed to be Amari Stoudemire.
Really? That would have been weird.
No, it was bad. He's bad at like just talking in regular life, let alone having to act. He's like, well, I think the Knicks is good, and I'm good, and that's more good. That would have been bad. Like Kevin Garnett, that's like the perfect dude. Because first off, he still looks like he's still playing.
Yeah.
For one, dude doesn't age. He's in great shape. So, and and he's just like he's acting every day in life. He's just a personality. So it's perfect guy to get. And you would believe he would do that outlandish shit too.
Yeah. I think the funny thing is at the end of the movie, all I could think of was the line from White Men Can't Jump, where I was like, just a Rosie Perez over narration of like, sometimes when you win, you really lose.
And sometimes when you lose, you
actually win. And I was like,
when you win or lose, you actually win or
tie. You actually tie.
tie out. Well,
that's all I could think of. I was like, this is just like an alternate version of White Men Can't Jump.
Is that when he throws the water in her face after she says that dumbass shit?
Yeah.
Good, actually, no. The water one was when she's like, I'm thirsty.
Out of bed and that half
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she had that comment. I would not tolerate that woman at any point in that movie. I'm like, okay, you look good, but other than that, get to stepping. All right. Even though he was the worst part of that. I mean, just every time when he's having the dunk contests, and it's just like it breaks your heart every time.
I mean, let's be real. It was just a toxic relationship from the beginning. They probably shouldn't have been together.
No, they were not compatible. But first off, let's talk about why is she owes the money to the Stookie brothers, not him.
Yeah.
Right. And then her whole thing is, I'm just not going to work.
Nah, she wanted to be on Jeopardy.
Training for Jeopardy. Training.
No.
Need to know,
train at night. Work during the day.
5 foods that started with the letter Q. You can pay back the Stookies.
Yeah. That makes no sense that you can train for Jeopardy. You do not know the questions. There's no what is this? This is a book of general knowledge.
Just arbitrary information.
Yeah, I'm just going to bone up on stuff. No, you train your whole life for fucking Jeopardy, not currently.
Every second of every day is
no. You are general egghead, and you just know shit about the earth, and then you go on Jeopardy. There's no training for Jeopardy. I'm sorry.
What
about training for a spelling bee? Can you train for a spelling bee?
Yes.
Okay.
There's only so many hard words. All right.
Doc knows like 3 of them.
Verisimilitude. Copious.
You see that movie Bad Words?
Bad Words.
Yeah. What's his name? Dude from Ozark. What the hell's his name?
Jason Bateman.
Yeah. He enters a handful of young kid spelling bees through a loophole just to get back to his dad, who runs like the spelling bee coalition.
Is this like The Ringer, but for like smart people?
More or less, but dude, it's crass, but like in the best funny way possible. And Jason Bateman plays the exact Jason Bateman character that he always plays. so it makes it even better.
But he's not always he seems like he's an asshole in this movie. He's not always an asshole.
He's smug.
No. He's smug. He's always smug. Even in Unnecessary Roughness. Do you remember him being in Unnecessary Roughness? How long ago that was?
Fuck.
Yeah, I saw it in the theater. '93.
Did you?
Don't start no shit, man. I'll take it to the streets. All right.
Dude, I cannot believe he's been acting for that long. And that movie was like one of my favorites when I was a kid. God damn.
Well, that's like
Scott
fucking
Bakula, American Hero.
That's
What's
like
that?
fucking what's his
Scott
face?
Bakula, American Hero.
Yeah.
Scott Bakula from
Sinbad's role in that movie? Perfect.
We going to party. Kathy Ireland.
That's like when you realize that E from Entourage is in Rocky 5.
And Beverly Hillbillies.
Yep.
What is he in Rocky 5?
He's the bully kid that beats up Rocky's kid.
Isn't that funny when you're the bully, right? When you're like 12 years old, but then he never grew from being 12 years old.
Entourage joke right there.
Dude, he's from the town that I'm living in right now. He owned a bar down the block.
He's one of those dudes that just looks like, he had 5 kids and a drinking problem when he was like 14. Just like he had the same old man Irish bar owner face.
Rosy shit. Always looks like he's just woke up, has a cough.
Looking old and young at the same time, man. Pick a decade.
Benjamin Button-ass motherfucker.
Oh shit! You reminded me when you said the Amari Stoudemire thing, like couldn't act. I was like, it's almost like he would be the after the Monstars took all of his skills and shit. That would be what you'd be left with for Uncut Gems.
Listen, man, that dude, good player, but just
was he?
He was a good player when up until the injuries, man. That guy in the right system, man, 20 and 10 all day. Athletic freak and could hit that. His 17-foot jumper, wet, hard H. Okay.
You know who I'm like the most excited is back in the league, especially during this shit, is J.R. Smith. Actually, I think Scuzz and I texted him. I was like, dude, I need to get a Hennessy Smith fucking Lakers jersey.
I was beside myself when I saw that signing. I'm like, come on. Like, you think LeBron did that just for the fun of it?
Hell yeah.
No, you guys are wrong. All right.
I mean, he's
J.R.
great.
Smith comes off the bench warmed up. All right. If someone goes down, you put him in the game, and I guarantee you he will hit some threes and play some defense. And that's all you need.
Yeah, he's a ball of energy and he's a good player, but it's like it was hard for me to take that shit seriously. I was like, dude, like I feel
he's
like
not playing though.
Yeah, he is. I mean, well, not
right.
really.
He's not getting playing time, but he's there just in case like what's his name? KCP or one of them dudes goes down.
I just want to see him run around for another like 3 months with no shirt on after they win a championship. Yeah. Hey, LeBron, why your jersey look different than mine?
What day is it? Yo, where's the trophy, JR?
Actually, speaking of that meme, I heard that they're not testing in the bubble for weed for the NBA.
Hey man,
if you keep everybody there, don't test for weed.
If you can't bring your girl, you gotta give these dudes something.
I'm saying, you want to keep the friggin' league going? Don't test for weed.
Why? By the way, why would they test for weed anyway? Like literally, it ain't performance enhancing. It's just gonna make you lazier.
Look at J.R. Smith.
But think about it. So you're saying don't use
player.
weed after the game. I can literally drink an entire bottle of Jack Daniels, but I can't. That makes no sense. Yeah. Like I can literally kill my brain cells, get so messed up that I like shot at practice the next day because I would like. It makes no sense at all. Like, it's a hard job. All right, let them relax.
I'm actually surprised.
The weed.
You ever suck some dick for weed?
Oh.
Well, I think this is about run its course. Although I could probably start quoting movies left and right. And it's by the way, I love these gangster ass Clippers jerseys that they're wearing currently. This black on white with the Los Angeles.
Nice jerseys.
Yeah, those are tight.
Those are clean. I love them.
I think my favorite retro jerseys though are the Trailblazer ones. The old Trailblazer, the Glide specials.
Well, keep in mind, these are not retro jerseys. These are city jerseys.
Yeah, these are city jerseys.
Well, different.
What? All right, I don't know the difference.
A city jersey is a specialty jersey that gets released every year. That's a little different. Not every year for every team, but they're only 2 years old. So teams will make like a special, special jersey that's kind of relative to the local area. So every team has them. So there's some really. I have a couple myself, and that's their city jersey for this year. They had a different one last year, right?
I'm just saying in general, like whenever they do throwback jerseys, I think my favorite one is the Trail.
Well, I'm just saying these are not throwback; they're new. Throwback indicates they're old.
You got me on that one.
I know.
You always do.
No, I'm just on that thing. I'm just saying. Sometimes just throwback. These just aren't it. By the way, I got a throwback Suns jersey from like the '90s.
Who'd you get, Marley?
No, I got Nash. It's fucking badass though. I got it in China. I was in France.
That's where it came from.
Italy. I was in Italy, and I got that one, and then I got the Steph City jersey. The
weird tree thing.
It's the town. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Circling back to the documentary, forgot how good that Phoenix Suns team was.
Not me.
All the household names on that team in those, what was it, the conference championship or the finals?
Finals,
yeah.
All the household names on that team, ridiculous. Absolutely insane. And I completely forgot about it.
That was probably the best team, I think, of all the teams they faced in the finals. But it's kind of a joke compared to like how good the teams are now, where it's like the Miami Heat goes play the Spurs with like 5 Hall of Famers on the team. It's like, oh, Tony Parker and Tim Duncan and Kawhi Leonard and Manu Ginobili, and it's like their third best players like made an All-Star team once on the Suns. Like, well, I don't think
Dan Marley is going to be able to really hold it together.
Yeah. Dan Marley is just like a league average player right now, and he was an All-Star during that team. But you had like someone like Tom Chambers, who was formerly an All-Star, but he wasn't in his prime anymore. You had, was it Cedric Ceballos on that team? But I'm saying, when you see 37-year-old Danny Ainge playing like 30 minutes a game, your team is struggling. I'm just saying. Can you imagine Danny Ainge in the game trying to guard Russell Westbrook? Can you imagine? Think about this. You're Michael Jordan, and you're like, oh, I got Danny Ainge and 6'1" ass Kevin Johnson guarding me. Think about the people this dude was guarding. It was like Joe Dumars, 6'3", John Starks, 6'3", fucking what's his name on the Utah Jazz?
Stockton.
Byron Russell. Hornacek.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So he got Hornacek guarding this dude, and you're like, oh wow, Jordan had 57. I mean, I'm not surprised. It wasn't until you had Gary Payton D'ing him up sometimes, and you had Reggie Miller, a couple tall dudes. But it's like now, if he had to play the Warriors, it'd be Draymond and Clay and Iguodala and Kevin Durant. Like, it was just arms, would not be easy. Wouldn't be like Hornacek down there.
I agree.
I still think. I was gonna say, I think one of my favorite teams, and like I know this is like a shitty way to use as a barometer, but I really do think that '96 Seattle team was really underrated. Like Hershey Hawkins, Detlef Schrempf, like they had some really great like role players that did really well. That it's like if you were willing to let either Peyton or Kemp kind of do their damage, you had perimeter players that were able to kind of shoot on the wings and so forth, or put it on the floor as well. I don't think that team necessarily gets as much love for some of their role players as some of the other.
Because listen, here's the truth. There's none of these dudes. Like Gary Payton's a good player. Sean Kemp was a good player, but what would Sean Kemp be in today's league? Like the 25th best guy? Like in terms of skill, they're like Gary Payton wasn't getting you 30 a night. Do you know what I'm saying? Like Sean Kemp,
he's like Patrick Beverly.
He's a Hall of Famer, dude. He ain't like a dude was getting you 20 a night.
More of an all right.
He was getting you 20 a night. My point is, it wasn't it wasn't like a Westbrook. It's not a James Harden. Like I said, James Harden's like, think about it. Luka Doncic is like miles better than either of those guys. And he's like the best guy on like the 10th best team. Do you understand what I'm saying? They were good teams, but they're not as good as the teams are now. LeBron James in 2012 and the Miami Heat went against a team that would ultimately have 3 MVPs on it. Do you know how crazy that is?
Yeah.
That shit is crazy. I mean, even the Toronto Raptors who were like not even favored. You got Kawhi, who's a Hall of Famer. You got Marc Gasol, who's probably going to go in the Hall of Fame, multiple-time All-Star. You got what's his name? Kyle Lowry, who's probably going to go to the Hall of Fame.
Said Clint.
or be at least a fringe person that'll go to the Hall of Fame. You got what's his name who made the All-Star team this year? Go guys your arms. Who's that?
Pascal
Siakam, All-Star. You just got random dude. And then like you said, Ibaka, who's like one of these kind of like all-star type role players, right? He's like Horace Grant on crack, right? It's like he's gonna, so I'm just saying, like, even a team like that, whereas the Warriors at the beginning of the season literally started a team that had 5 all-stars starting, which hasn't happened in 40 years.
Game's completely different.
I'm just saying there's just more talent. Like that was probably the best era of since then was that early 90s time, kind of, but the first, but Jordan almost never even had to go up a team that even had 2 Hall of Famers on it, with the exception of the Utah Jazz.
Don't say that. People will get real mad at you for bringing that up.
I'm saying they were good teams, but it's like Clyde Drexler, right?
On his way down.
He was the best team player on the Trailblazers. And then who was their second best player?
Couldn't even tell you. Could not even tell you.
Exactly. Terry, what's his name? Exactly. Kevin Duckworth. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so but what I'm saying is by the time Clyde won a ring, he was the second best player. And Clyde was great.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But like, is like Bradley Beal better than Clyde Drexler? Who didn't even make an all-star team? Dude averaged 30.
Wild.
Think about it. Like you're like, if you had to go one-on-one, Clyde Drexler versus Bradley Beal, I think it'd probably be pretty damn close.
Well, I think about, have you had this conversation or this debate? The 2012 Dream Team versus the 96 or the 92 Dream Team?
I think the more interesting question.
Had a lot of big men on that first Dream Team, though.
I've had it before, and you just have to go position, and then like break it down, dude versus dude. Because if you want, I have a better thing. All right, which is you can look at the teams, but to a certain degree, there are players on those teams that. So the 92 team feasibly could have had Shaq and Isaiah Thomas on it, right? So let's say you take Chris Mullin off the team, or even Stockton, and put Isaiah Thomas, and then you take Christian Laettner off and you put Shaq, right? But then you look at the 2012 team, and there's a couple players there where certain people didn't play, right? Like Duncan could have been on that team, or I have to look at the list right now. But the 2012 team, you have just look at this. So look at the top 3. So you got 92, you got Jordan, Magic, and Bird. But Bird's old as hell and shot. But in 2012, you got LeBron, Kobe, and Durant.
Yeah. Now, who are you taking? Now, if you talk about what age they're at, Bird was kind of shot. But if you say, well, all in their prime, it's kind of.
Yeah. Do you know that? Scuzz, do you know there's a website where they have this actual debate up and they have it broken down? Who's starting for each of the teams? So, like right now, I'm looking at the point guards. Chris Paul versus Magic Johnson. Paul was averaging almost 19 points, 9 assists, all that kind of stuff. Magic averaging more across the board. So they're like, oh, Johnson has the edge. Shooting guard, Kobe versus Jordan. Small forward, Pippen versus James. Power forward, Barkley, Durant. Centers, Ewing versus Dwight Howard.
Well, Dwight. Well, 2012. Dwight. I don't know what year you're looking at. Dwight Howard didn't play in 2012.
So I'm looking at
Dwight Howard wasn't there. But Tyson Chandler was what I was saying. If you just get the best players of that era, you could actually make this team even better. That's what I was saying. If you kind of played that game, so if you replace peak Dwight Howard or Chandler with peak Dwight Howard, all of a sudden that's probably a better team. But you say, okay, the centers are way better on the 92 team. It's not even close, right? But the question is, if they're running up and down and shooting threes and pulling these dudes out the paint, it's kind of a different
game.
It's a different game. I mean, there's literally one center on this 2012 team. But then look at the point guard situation: Deron Williams, Russell Westbrook, Chris Paul, and you got Anthony Davis, and he wasn't the Anthony Davis we know now, but just based on who he was, it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah,
So I do think actually overall the 92 team is a little better because I do think just the size and Jordan, Barkley, some of those dudes, where they were in that time. But I think it'd be an amazing game.
Yeah,
I'd love to see some. I'm hoping the simulations get really good where you could actually, make a simulated version.
That shit.
What's that?
Rocky Six. That shit.
Yeah, why not?
Some a little better than Michael Phelps versus Shark. Doc, you never saw that shit?
What is it?
Michael Phelps versus Shark.
Oh yeah, it's stupid.
That's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life.
That's just no.
Either of you guys catch that documentary on Showtime about PG County in DC?
About what?
It's called It Must Be in the Water, or It's in the Water. It's about PG County in DC where like Durant grew up.
No.
And I can't remember all the names. You guys are way more knowledgeable about basketball than I am. But it's about this one county where half the high schools are responsible for dozens of NBA players because
we lost you. You got garbage internet, right?
There you go.
Get your internet together, right?
Stop buying shit for your new house.
I just took a shower. I'm out of it. I just got home.
You see this? We got mics. We got headphones. You got nothing over there.
You both run podcasts. I don't.
You could have the Scuzz podcast, the Scuzzcast.
You don't got headphones.
I'm gonna get nobody on there to talk about nothing.
You don't got headphones. You don't got a mic.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I got both those things just somewhere. I just got a house. I didn't even move all the way in yet, man. This whole thing's been hell. Ask him. He knows. It's just been miserable.
So you could say this is hell?
Oh, right, asshole. Anyway, so this county in DC, like super impoverished, but they spent a buttload of money on making like youth centers. And these youth centers are almost what populated all of AAU tournaments and stuff like that. So all these teams that were created from these youth centers would join the AAU tournaments, and they'd all be from the same area in the DC area because it got so competitive because there were so many youth centers.
Silk like a bitch.
Yeah, like Durant. I'm losing all the names right now, but it's worth a shot. And it talks about so many ridiculous players that were all the same age, all coming from the same area into the NBA. It's pretty rad.
The only thing like that with Kevin Durant attached to it that I saw was that Netflix documentary on the basketball team in like a maximum security prison.
No idea.
No, Showtime for some reason has an inordinate amount of documentaries about basketball. I don't know why, but they're supporting the brothers. You know what I'm saying?
They got a lot of documentaries.
I've watched almost none of them, but at some point.
My favorite was He Got Game. That's a great documentary.
Is there a specific one about Gary Payton on there?
No, there's one about Ben Simmons though, about like his decision.
It's called Behind the Line.
Something about just about college. I think it's called One and Done, actually, about the whole like process of deciding where he went to school. But there's a lot on there for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah. Showtime's trying to dominate the documentary niche.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they ain't doing shit else otherwise.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Billions is a good show.
Haven't seen it. Making my way through How to Get Away with Murder.
I'm on the last season of Vikings.
All right, guys, I'll just say this. When we start kind of talk about what we're watching at times,
it's time to go.
Jump in the shark, right? Come on, guys. No one gives a shit.
Well, this is where Doc uses his expert podcasting technique to bring it back.
I had Jason Sukoff on my show, And this motherfucker started telling me about what he was watching, asked me what I was watching. I'm like, yo, bro, this one, not what motherfuckers tuned in for. I canceled the podcast, and I was like, yo, we're gonna come back when we reschedule. His ADD got the best of him, And I was like, no.
What is one of the like? I mean, I know your show's a little bit different. Like, you're not having necessarily publicists pitch you like people, and you're not like having to focus on can't talk about this, can't talk about these things. Focus it on the new record, whatever. Has there been one though that you've done where you're like, I don't even think I can put this out?
No, I mean, anytime I thought I had a bad show, I'll go back to listen to it, and it's turned out okay.
Do you edit much? I don't really hear a lot of editing points where I can tell like you've edited.
Not very often. It really just depends on what the show is. There's some stuff where it's maybe I shouldn't have said that, or maybe the guest will ask me to take something out, but it's fairly minimal.
Jealous.
Yeah, well, I've literally I just don't. Pretty much, if someone's making the rounds, they have an album out, I don't want to talk to them.
Yeah,
I mean, I did it a little bit recently, but it was people I already wanted to talk to, so it just happened to coincide with that. But I could have Phil and Tom on my show, and they're like, "Well, we want to talk about the record." I'm like, "Well, that's not what I want to talk about." So if we're not going to talk about what I want to talk about, then he's not going to be on my show. So it's just I don't give a shit. I don't want to. Seriously, I'm not there to serve your agenda and promote your album. I'm here to tell a story. So
the irony is a couple of times that's happened, I'm very cognizant of trying to stick to that thing. Like, hey, Ivan Moody's gonna doing the rounds to talk about his weed company that he started or whatever. And I'm like, whatever, I'll take it for the name. And my wife's sort of in the industry of pharmaceuticals and so forth, so I can at least kind of bullshit my way through it. But it was kind of interesting though. Like, I'll see people like that do other shows, and someone will ask in the last 2 minutes, so you talk about the thing they're supposed to, and I'm like, fuck, man, you can do that? No one's gonna get mad at you?
I mean, all you can do is try. I just don't care. I'd rather, I'd probably could get bigger guests, more famous people, but it's just not that interesting to me to just service kind of this industry. I'd rather talk to people that no one's talking to and have conversations no one's having, even if it gets less numbers. Like the episode I just put out today with Dale Restighini,
I was actually about to ask you about that
the director.
Yeah,
because he's just an interesting guy with an interesting background and says interesting things, and we can talk about bigger things than just guitar riffs, and so that might not get as many downloads as another episode with a more known person from a band, and I have to kind of balance that. But for me, it's just more fertile ground, and it's just more interesting. So that's where I'm, so it's a balance, because I still have to kind of feed that element as well as having artists that people know, because that's ultimately what draws people into the show. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to listening to that one with Dale, because
it's pretty solid.
The trailer for his movie is insane.
Yeah, we talked the whole second half of the podcast is all about that, so we get into it.
Yeah,
he's from around here too. Yeah, not far.
It's been kind of funny because I think I had someone actually complain about my Jesse from Killswitch episode, and they're like, "Why didn't you talk about Killswitch?" And I was like, "That if you listen to the first 10 seconds, I was like, we're gonna talk about everything but Killswitch. Dude's been around for fucking 20 years, and there's so many things he's done. Let's talk about that. Because no one ever talks about that." And I was like, so even when I preface and say this is the crux of the whole show, someone's still bitching that they're like, well, you didn't talk about Killswitch, and it's like, thanks. You should get Jesse on though. I think you'd probably do way better than I did.
Yeah, well, Jesse's definitely been on my list, but it's kind of the same thing. He also does a lot of stuff, so I almost if someone's doing a lot of stuff, I don't want to just have them on just to have them on. But I know, me and Jesse go deep. I imagine if he comes on, we'll probably do 3 hours, because
we did about 2, so probably really easy for you guys to chop it up.
And we go way back, man. And he's one of those dudes. But I just try and, like I said, if someone's out there a lot, I almost don't want to have him on the show at that current time, if that makes sense. I'm very counter to what's going on. I want to talk to Joel. No one talks to Joel. Come on the show, motherfucker. I want to talk to people no one's talking to. I think it's more interesting.
Yeah, he's interesting. Let's talk to.
I don't talk to nobody, Doc. Holler.
I don't know you.
Damn, dude. I hurt.
Who are you?
I hurt.
We'll get you.
Who is your white whale currently? Because in light of the episode you did with that you dropped like 2 weeks ago with God, I'm really terrible with names. The foreign dude, the German dude from
Dolphin.
Yeah.
Oh, I was so psyched about that. It's like
that was a great episode. Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah, I mean, probably Newstead. For the theme. Because there's kind of a list of people I have that I'm just kind of working through. But it's not really one person. I would say. It's not like, oh, I need to talk to this one person that's gonna make it happen for me. There's just a handful of people I want to speak to, and I know for the most part I'll get it done. It's just a matter of time. And some people just, I mean, when you deal with like really, really big bands, they, I've heard like a very similar thing. It was like, yeah, well, we're not doing press right now, which is like, because it's just a bigger thing where they just can't do an interview randomly. Actually, no. The white whale is Grohl. That's the white whale.
So, all right.
Probably will never happen, but you never know.
I don't know. You're at least within the circle. I think my friends for the Nomads thing, I remembered that I was like, hey, remembered somebody else is kind of proximity wise about as close as you are to Grohl at this point. And I was like, hey, you're the like publicity firm for like, some of these DWP festivals. Like, is there any way you could like maybe get this in front of Dave? Because I feel like he would support this thing if he were to see it, because it just seems like something he'd do. And they're like, oh yeah, we'll send it to his people. And I was like, okay, cool, thank you. And then I was just like, mention my podcast. Like, yeah,
I mean, like I said, I'm very kind of aware about some of this stuff because I think, not even I know, it's just the more famous someone is, the more their time is demanded of. So you kind of have to be careful about, utilizing your favors and your connections to kind of do those things. So I'm very, I really try and go out of my way not to bother people too much, and I want it to be casual. I don't want it to be press. It's not press for me. Right. I'm not here. Like I said, I'm not here to promote your fucking album. I will. I will. It's about me. It's about just making connections and telling stories, and that's really all it's about. And everything else, like I had someone who was like a key person that I thought was important to have on the show, and they're like, yeah, I'm just doing a lot of press. And it's like the fact that they saw my show as press.
I think you told me who it was.
And it like pissed me off. And I was like, you know what? I'll literally never ask you to be on my show ever again. Because I just don't, and I'll probably get a publicist like, oh, would you like to have this person on? I was like, no, I'm good. Because I just don't, it should be about the personal element, not about this like it shouldn't be work. If it's work, I don't want anyone to do my show that doesn't want to do it. You know what I'm saying? At all. Like I don't want it to feel like a chore. It should be fun. It's like we're having fun. We're just bullshitting, And it's like, and if it's not fun, don't do it. Don't do it. Now,
I feel like it might be easier these days to get somebody that you really want because it's easy to be visible. So if you just throw it at the wall, said person can just check it out and see, the format and what your podcast is all about.
Yeah, it's just we gotta understand.
Let me actually jump on that and talk to
them. Yeah, but they're just getting asked. Here's the thing. Everyone's starting a fucking podcast. Yeah. Everyone has something, and they're getting asked a million times to do a million things, and they just don't have all the time. So if you're gonna take that shot, you got to make sure it's at a particular juncture where it's a real shot to do it, because you might not get a chance again, where you're just being an annoying person. So so I just keep with that. There's even a lot of my friends who I don't really bother too much, because, and it's the same thing. If someone doesn't want to do the show, if they say they don't really want to do it, I will never ask them again. I'm not into that. So,
cool.
Well, I guess that's as good as any, because now you're making me feel bad for taking up so much of your time.
That's right. My children are hungry.
And he did just ask who the hell I am. So yeah.
Who are you? Who are you? Do you know who you are? This is like a.
I've been trying to figure it out for the past 6 months now. You got no fucking clue.
You got a new house. I know that.
Come kick it, dude.
Big shot.
Anytime you want to come hang. Both of y'all.
Long Island.
Long Island.
Dude, we were at, yeah, I was at Long Island not that long ago, and you were too busy.
Yeah, we were on it. Was that the tour that started and stopped in Philly?
Sure. I don't know.
I don't remember. I don't know.
All right, well, fellas, y'all be good.
Be good, Doc. Good to see you.
Keep it real. Yeah, I will, of course, get you on my show at some point.
It's all good.
A lot of ducks in a row. All right, gotta
get the big ducks first. If you need a duck randomly, call this duck.
It's because it's a layup.
you. Right.
I actually heard if you buy his merch, it moves you up into the line of getting on the show.
It doesn't. It just stops you from getting slapped in the chest.
I forgot that was the crux of it. You get slapped in the chest.
That's right. Don't get slapped in the chest.
All right. Well, I'm going to finish this basketball game. Good talking to you both.
All right, fellas. Be good.
So that was it. Kind of all over the place and was a lot of fun. I know we didn't get to the giveaway of the Wawa gift card, so I'll just do a post on Instagram or something, and it'll be shared across the socials and try to give it away next week. I'll figure out something, probably just do some like ratings or reviews or some bullshit and go from there. So thanks for checking it out. If you did, thanks to Doc for taking the time. Thanks for Scuzz for joining last minute. That was a fun thing I planned this morning once Dan wasn't able to join. And go support the X-Men podcast. It's one of my favorite podcasts out there. Obviously, Doc is very well informed and articulate host and makes for some really great episodes. So without further ado, I'm done. We'll talk to you all next time.